Hi everybody, welcome back to Always Learning, or Mary, as you can call me all the time, anytime. Today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a fascinating topic, at least it is to me. It's what I call the superpowers of introverts. Now, whether or not you identify as an introvert or not, I'm sure you know someone who does, so you'll want to stick around for this one because we can uncover some of the strengths that often go unnoticed in introverts. Now, first, we have to clarify what is an introvert. What does that even mean? Well, it really means that it's not someone who's shy or antisocial. It could be, but that's not a necessity, right? Because introverts are often misunderstood as being shy, the wallflowers and all that, but that's not the whole story at all. We don't hate people or whatever, some people probably do, but in general, introversion is about how we recharge our energy, what takes our energy and what we need to get it back. Introverts, we often find our energy after we've been peopling for a while, dealing with a lot of people. We often need time to recharge, almost like exactly what it sounds like, almost like a battery. Now, this is a legitimate need. It's not a quirk. It doesn't mean that and I'm going to say we sometimes, I'm going to say they sometimes, but I am definitely an introvert. But it doesn't mean that we don't enjoy socializing. We just have to take it in different doses, and we can't stand to, well, let me put it this way. I've got a better way to put this. We, as introverts, recharge our energy, like I said, by being alone. Extroverts, on the other hand, recharge their energy by being active with other people and socializing and all that. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't like socializing, because a lot of us really do. It's just we have to take our care and make sure that we're doing it in smaller doses, like I said. Now, let's explore some of the unique strengths that come with being an introvert. And the world often favors the extrovert ideal, is what I've heard it called when I've been reading and researching this kind of topic. And the extrovert ideal means that a lot of times the world favors the bold and favors the people that love to be the center of attention and the life of the party and all that stuff. The ones who can come back anytime with a one-liner or some kind of great comeback. And many people therefore overlook what I classify as superpowers of introverts. The extrovert ideal sometimes results in those of us who are introverts being ignored at work and even at home sometimes because, well, we're just a little bit quieter, a little bit to ourselves. Superpower number one is deep thinkers, which you may not have thought of, but the ability to think deeply comes from the fact that we're so often inside our own heads, absorbed in thought, sometimes to the point where our faces forget to take on expressions. And I had an ex, first, I guess, long-term ex, had told me something to the effect of, well, we didn't even really talk much for the first year that you knew me, because sometimes we can be very, very quiet until we get to know someone, and they don't quite understand how to relate to us. Most extroverts really don't get it. This can lead to some different kinds of relationship issues as far as that goes, but it depends. It depends on who the person is and how good you are at communicating what's really going on with you. Now, often what happens with introverts is if we're, say, at work and there's some discussions, what happens with the extroverts is they'll throw out the first thing off the top of their head. They throw out ideas quickly. Introverts, we're generally going to take that moment to consider the implications and nuances and so on of every suggestion we make. Some of that comes from maybe insecurity a little bit, but most of it comes from just the fact that it's sort of the way we're made. We like to think and we like to have those thoughts kept to ourselves until we're ready to let them out into the world. Often we come up with the best ideas after quiet contemplation. Now, superpower 2, we make great listeners and friends. Now, another superpower here is that we are indeed people who tend to be more observant and empathetic. So that makes us loyal friends. We don't just listen so we are waiting and biding our time to respond. We listen because we want to understand. Sometimes we want to know you. And the ability to listen promotes deeper connections, deeper friendships, and more of an understanding in any kind of relationship. Often introverts pick up on subtle cues and emotions and things that others might miss, which allows you sometimes to provide support and insight for people when it's needed most. Now, we may not have large circles of friends, but the relationships we do choose to nurture are generally going to be deep and authentic. That's because we prioritize quality over quantity. We don't want hundreds of acquaintances that we can run into and say, hey, we want one or two, maybe three, I don't know, a few, a very small circle usually of friends. I know in school, I usually had one or two friends, and then you might have one or two friends in another social group or something. But one thing that we do is we create usually a strong support system that is incredibly fulfilling in the sense of belonging. Now, because of this superpower, we love deep discussions and we're actually good at it, but we dislike the monotony of small talk. We can talk about politics, religion, theories of all kinds, of anything, without getting mad. This is getting really rare today. So this really is a superpower because we love to have a meaningful discussion, but we also love to listen, as I said. We're not judging you on everything you're saying. Oh, we're not sitting there thinking of a response. We like to learn about you. If you're an introvert, embrace that strength because it's such a rare quality and becoming even more so that it's going to maybe, I hope not, but probably go extinct one day. But it is something that many people don't have, but most people do admire that ability. Now, superpower number 3 has to do with focus and independence. Introverts also excel in being able to focus and work independently. We can work on projects for long periods of time without needing this constant social interaction or somebody standing over our shoulder giving us all this feedback of, oh, well, you did great on this part and you did the great, blah, blah, blah. We want to work on things ourselves. And as a teacher, I know there's introverts in my classes, and there's a push at that moment that somewhere in there when I started teaching, somewhere between the past 20 years and now, we have a push toward active learning, which is basically some sort of group work. And I do not like that. I do not like being told that that has to be done. And I don't like to force it on the kids that are introverts. Okay, I know that there's some good to it, but you know what? It's still pushing that whole thing that the world should all be extroverted and feel like they can all come together and make these great things happen, with one mind or whatever. That's called groupthink, and that's not productive most of the time. We, as introverts, we often work more slowly and deliberately instead of thinking out loud, off the cuff to a group. We have ideas that have often been fully formed before we even open our mouth about them to anybody else. Now, many introverts also focus on getting one thing done at a time. Now, sometimes you have someone like me who has ADHD or ADD, I think more properly, that this is going to be a little bit of an overlap here, but we seem to know that multitasking isn't truly possible unless you have the ADHD and ADD or whichever. But the point is that generally speaking, we as introverts do have a similar form of hyperfocus that people with ADD and ADHD have. And that can be very productive in all those cases. I can do some of each because I do have both of the qualities of introversion and attention deficit disorder. But most introverts thrive in careers because of this, such as jobs that they thrive in, allow them to escape group work and put their own ideas into action. That's really important for us. Things like tech, IT, and tech jobs, and the entrepreneurs, the great entrepreneurs, they're doing things on their own, coming up with great ideas and so on, using their own counsel for making decisions, writing, studio art in particular too, science research, or really honestly, any kind of research. Like I love to research history, for example, and obviously lots of other things. That's a great one for me. Now, superpower 4 is the power of reflection. Power of reflection. Well, a thing about reflection that we're talking about would be introverts taking the time to process our experiences and emotions. That by nature is going to lead to personal growth and self-awareness. A lot of times, if we go too far with it, it becomes something called rumination, where you go back and you constantly rethink the past and you think about every little mistake you made, or you can't sleep tonight because you think that you did something today that just you keep ruminating. Not that. That's the unhealthy part of it. But the hidden power and the superpower and the thing that we need to focus on is slowing down, taking our time to process what we're really thinking and feeling. And we learn then from our mistakes. And this is a good practice to encourage. If you have kids that are showing those signs maybe of introversion and wanting to be, well, after they have, say, play dates or whatever, they need to recharge, or after a hard day at school, they really need to just recharge or whatever. It's really good to encourage this practice, because this will help introverts harness this inner strength and develop even a clearer sense of purpose. Part of that is because we do have such rich inner worlds that creativity and anything in the artistic pursuits and so on, most of those people were introverts. Now, there's the thing I want to leave you with at the end. There's some very well-known introverts that a lot of people may know them as introverts, but they may be unknown to some of you. For example, Prince William. While the crown, while the royal family is known for pushing the royals out in front of the cameras and the newspapers and the everything else, well, they've had to adjust a bit with Prince William. Prince William, his entire life, that's something that we think innately born with, we think, introversion. But Prince William was always the guy who said he just wanted to be a regular guy. He wanted people to call him not by Prince William, not to bow to him or His Royal Highness or anything. He just wants to be a regular guy because he doesn't want to be the center of attention. Okay? People like, for example, Rosa Parks. She had been a very quiet woman, very small in stature, but very thoughtful. You think she had a lot of thoughts and got in with Martin Luther King Jr. at some point, and they did some great things. But Rosa Parks had a lot of courage that day when she just said the word no when she was asked to move out of one of the seats in the bus because a white man wanted that seat. She just said no, and then it went from there. She had a quiet, and I think that is enough. I think that's where I'm going to end this. But anyway, thank you for being here. Bye.